Alright, let's look at some of the first few problems here on this review. And 1 through 3 are true and false questions. And number 1 says, is f is continuous over AB and f prime of C equals 0, is it true that f of A equals f of B? Justify your answer with a graph or an explanation. This is not necessarily true, but it could be true. A lot of this is going to go on what your explanation is. I think false when I think this. Here is A, here is B. There is f of A. There is f of B. Now, if it looked like that, C could be right here, and f prime of C would be 0. Okay? So it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. But again, like I said, it would depend on your justification. You could make a justification, A, B, that looked like that, C. Okay? Alright, let's move on to number 2. If a function has 2 points at which the tangent line is horizontal, then the graph of the function must have 3 x-intercepts. That is false. Because again, the graph could look like this. There's 2 places where the derivative is 0 and 1 x-intercept. Number 3. This one, if f prime of x equals g prime of x on the interval AB, then f of b minus a equals g of b minus g of a.
Pay your attention please for one more cancellation. Due to the timing with the holidays, the rescheduled date for the boys' 8th grade basketball tournament will be next Tuesday, December 20th. However, with the rescheduling being moved from a Saturday to a Tuesday evening, the tournament will only include 1st through 4th seed conference teams, and these teams will include Kewanee, Southern Door, Sturgeon Bay, and Gibraltar. Thank you.
And this is true by the fundamental theorem of calculus. Okay. We're going to skip 4 and 5 for right now. We'll take a look at those. Looking at those again, I'm not quite as happy as with how they turned out as I had hoped. Let's take a look at number 6. Right. Back in the day, gumball has an outside. They said has an outside radius of 5 centimeters, and the thickness of the gum is 2 centimeters. So in other words, what they're saying is this is, imagine a basketball type thing where the inside is something else. And it says to use differentials to find the volume of the gum, and that the volume of a sphere is 4/3 pi r cubed. Well, this isn't necessarily that hard a problem. Go 4/3 pi times the outside radius cubed, and then subtract off the radius of the inside cubed. And if we do that, we should get 523.599, and we're going to subtract off 463.247. So the volume of the gum is equal to 60.352 cubic centimeters. And that's a whole lot of gum, but remember we're saying this thing has a radius of 5 centimeters, which would be a diameter of 10. And that would be a gumball somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 inches in diameter. So, it's a big gumball. Now, number 7 says that at 6 a.m. a delivery truck driver took a fare card and entered the turnpike whose speed limit is 65 miles per hour. And at 7:30 he exited the turnpike at a toll booth.
Do you have anything for me to work on?
Not today.
Can I go to bed?
Yep,
Thank you.
you bet. And that was Jenna. The toll booth operator summoned a state trooper who issued the speeding ticket. And how did the trooper know that the delivery truck was speeding, and how does that relate to the mean value theorem? Well, what we could do is say that the speed is the distance that this thing traveled, 108, divided by 1.5 hours. So we've got 108 miles in 1.5 hours. And if we do that division, we get 72 miles per hour. So now by the mean value theorem, we know that at some point in his trip he was doing at least 72 miles per hour. So he would have been speeding by 7 miles per hour. Alright, now number 8 says to determine whether Rolle's theorem can be applied to the function on the interval. And if Rolle's theorem can be applied, find all values of c in the interval that satisfy the theorem. Round your answer to 3 decimal places, it says. So basically what we want to know is f of negative 1/4 and if f of 1/4 equals 0. So this becomes negative 1 minus the tangent of negative pi over 4. And that does indeed equal 0. And f of 1/4 becomes 1 minus the tangent of pi over 4, and that's equal to 0. So yes, we can indeed apply Rolle's theorem. So let's see. We take the derivative and we get 4 minus the secant squared of pi x times pi. And